Okay, I think we managed to resolve whatever it was that was bothering us. So we are finally live, and I'm really happy to, commence on this edition of Indigenization Appreciation Hour, which is our fifth edition, but hopefully the first of many regular editions. Okay, and welcome to all of you. And without further ado, let me get down to answering your questions. But do remember one thing, that DDR does need your support. So we've enabled this sort of, super sticker, super chat kind of a feature. And we would be glad for any contributions that you're willing to make. So let's get down to that. You can see that $sign right there, although, you're allowed to contribute in INR, obviously. So let us get down to the business of answering your questions and, of course, of analyzing your comments. So right at the beginning, we have Mr. Death with his question. Mr. Death asks, how's health? I hope everything is okay. Yes, thanks to Jagannath, Jagannath's grace, I'm all right now. The tuberculosis medication seems to have worked, and I am rid of that scourge. So thank you. So now to answer your other question. My question is, what are the major imported components? Dr. Death asks, what are the major imported components in our SAR mapping, electro-optical and communication satellites? How indigenous are they component-wise? Without getting into too much of a granular analysis, you can imagine the semiconductors, many of the semiconductors used are the imported. Some may have been fabricated at SEL Chandigarh, but the others are imported, obviously. Connectors and all, I think those are now being sourced locally. Software is obviously indigenous. And of course, some of as far as the satellite, as far as the spacecraft itself and its power and the way it derives power from solar radiation, you can imagine a lot of that would be imported as well. I mean, as far as the PV modules are concerned. And what else? What else would be imported? Many of the other things are actually now not imported. They are being sourced from domestic industry. So the main imports would be on the semiconductor side. Okay, I'll just take this question as well. Are we developing L-band SAR satellites with Argentina? We might be. And you're probably, the last I remember, there was this, there were talks, there was this agreement between ISRO and Argentina's CONE, and Argentina does have this SAOCOM series of satellites, which are microwave imaging satellites. So, and Argentina has a lot of things going on with Italy. So and we've had a lot of bilateral visits with Italy in recent times, and maybe there's something going on there, but no details at this point. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Bornali Chatterjee asks, how much of Barak 8 is Indian? An expert was saying India couldn't develop its part and Israelis did everything. No, that is not right. It was Barak 8 has been developed as part of an Indo-Israeli JV, and the Barak 8 that we use, which is now called MRSAM, even in Navy service, which is dropping that LRSAM nomenclature, the dual pulse propulsion system is very much indigenous. That is what DRDL has developed. That was DRDL's part of the program. That was DRDL's contribution. Many of the actuators which I have seen during a factory visit are the main actuators are all Indian as well. Okay, they were developed in India and are built in India. And I'll let you the front end, which is even the seeker, the KU band seeker, that is also going to be replaced with an indigenous seeker in the years ahead. So almost all of Barak 8 will be Indian after a while. So whoever this expert is doesn't really know what he's talking about, or what he or she or whatever may be talking about. Next one. Dabmaster69 asks, good afternoon, sir. Regarding Army and IAF facing trouble exhausting the capital budget, do you think the import lobby in DAC and pro-indigenous lobby in MOD are currently in a tussle? Let me not answer such questions. I'm sure the DAC is very much part of the MOD and is the apex body which initiates a particular procurement process which has 12 steps, and I'm sure it is completely patriotic, as is the overall Ministry of Defense. So let me just keep it at that. The Ministry of Defense and DSE do not have any dalals or lobbies in them. Let's go to the next question. It's rocket science. Asks, what is the update on BMD Phase 2? AD-1 and AD-2 missiles test when? Also, is the are the missiles planned to be also launched from naval platforms? Okay, BMD Phase 1 has been completed successfully, as you know. Some things have been done. Let us not go into details of where new radars are being placed and all that, but you may have an inkling, it doesn't matter. As far as Phase 2 is concerned, obviously it is very much underway. You will see tests of these missiles quite soon. Whether they'll be announced or not, that of course is up to the government. That is not our calling. But yes, development is underway. And will they be launched from naval platforms? They might end up being. I mean, you must have heard of the Project 18 class of destroyers, which are going to displace almost 13,000 tons. 13,000 long tons when fully loaded, maybe more. Those might feature AD-1 or AD-2. See, it's not just a matter of the missiles, right? It's also a matter of their queuing system. Whether you are able to engineer that onto a naval platform or not, whether that is enough, or whether you need off-board queuing. There are many things that are involved there. That's a separate discussion. So let us now go to the next question. Okay, so Raghav asks, how lethal is the Su-30? How lethal will the Su-30 MKI be with half a dozen SAAWs? Can SAAW be effective against tanks, etc.? Static tank, obviously, yes. Maybe even more than one tank, depending on what kind of warhead the SAAW has. And but it's not actually designed to hit a tank formation. It's designed with a penetrator warhead to hit basically hard aircraft shelters. You may have seen a test also, of which a video is circulating publicly. Now, how lethal will the Su-30 MKI will be pretty lethal actually, because it can carry a whole lot of SAAWs, which is, for those who are uninitiated, right, is the smart. One second, let me just finish the thing. It has two variants. The SAAW has two variants. One is the variant which uses basically INS plus GPS with GPS updates. And the other is the one with the electro-optical seeker, which is an imaging infrared seeker. Please do not think it's a semi-active laser or something. It's not, or a TV guidance sort of setup. It's not. It's an imaging infrared seeker. That is the second version, and it's deadly accurate. CEP, although nothing is disclosed publicly, is remarkably low, is my view. Right. Let's go to the next one. Facts. And so the smart anti-airfield weapon is a very potent system, and an Su-30 MKI armed with it is even more potent than it already is. Now let's go to the next question. Facts asks, will we see Tejas Mark II in Defense Expo 2022? Any update? By this, what do you mean? Do you mean a mock-up, or do you mean the prototype itself? You're not going to see the prototype in Defense Expo 2022. Mock-up, I don't know. They may have one. They may not have one. We don't know about that. Right. Any update on Tejas Mark II? Well, plate cutting, they keep saying has started. Then they say it hasn't started. All I can tell you is, with the current funds allocated to, although the critical, the comprehensive design review of the system is over. Okay, the CDR is over. The critical design review is over. And this system is otherwise ready for full-scale engineering development. Subsystems realization has progressed concomitantly using old budgets, and maybe one prototype can be fabricated using the existing allocations. Okay, made under FSED Phase 3 and all that of the overall LCA program. But for the full prototyping of the system, and there will be 4 prototypes in all, with 2 of the prototypes flying the very next year after the first prototype has flown, and the last prototype, following the subsequent year after the ones in the middle have flown. That would require fresh allocations, and I don't know whether that has happened yet or not. I've even asked this question publicly before, because what people tell me is that it hasn't. But then, let's get on to the next question. Aditya Prakash asks, hi Saurav, what seems to be wrong with the Dhanush production? Even if it's a proven gun, why can't we license the design to L&T or Tata to get it made? We are desperate here. ATAGS, MGS all seem to be stalled. Dhanush has had some production side issues, but then don't forget one thing, it is also being subject to far more intensive testing than anything else. I mean, a lot of people take a dump on what used to be OFB quite easily, but don't forget one thing, OFB and now of course AWEIL, which is the one which makes the Dhanush, supplies barrels to BAE Systems, test barrels by the way, right? And Munitions India Limited, which makes 155mm shells, has got repeat orders from a customer in the GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council, for a lot of shells. So it's very easy to say it's this or that or one way or the other. But I can tell you, as far as I know, the problems have been resolved, and just one short burst of testing will happen soon, or is already underway, and the Dhanush will enter frontline service. I think almost 24 of them have been made already and have been moved. In fact, you wouldn't have seen the Dhanush on the Army Day Parade and the Republic Day Parade as part of the Army contingent if it wasn't in service already. It is in service. Okay, next question. What is the ATAGS, MGS? Oh no, ATAGS is not stalled anymore. I think it's moving now. MGS, of course, there are competing, the RFI came out in 2020 and there are competing systems. There is the BAE, AWEIL, BEML effort. Basically, AWEIL, which was OFB earlier, AWEIL, BEML, and BAE Consultancy are all together for the one they showed in earlier defense expos. And then there is an ATAGS mounted on a 8x8 truck, which we can call AMAGS probably, Advanced Mounted Artillery Gun System. That is also there in contention for this. So you'll see movement on that as well, that 814 unit tender. Next question is by Ayush Singh. Hi, please share updates on the 110 KN jet engine being developed, and when will the international partner be selected? Should India go for Rafale M or F-18 for Indian Navy? Okay. Now the 110 KN jet engine will be done as part of a special purpose vehicle. Okay, just like the AMCA. AMCA also will be done under a special purpose vehicle. Partner has not been selected for either yet. Obviously HAL and DRDO and HAL will be involved in both of these programs. Okay. And private partners are yet to be selected for either, and foreign partners for the 110 KN jet engine have not been selected yet. But the timeline for first flights with the jet engine prototype, according to DRDO, I'm talking about what I've discussed with them recently and can be publicly shared, is 7 years actually. Let's see what happens. Okay. Should India go for Rafale M or F-18 for Indian Navy? We should leave this to the Indian Navy, although, the Indian Navy obviously is better placed to decide on this. But I can say one thing, that given that the Air Force has already selected the Rafale, if we have to go by commonality and economies of scale and easier maintainability, and of course the fact that France is a more reliable partner for us right now than say America is with its CATSA and etc. If I were in the decision making process, I would probably lean one way. But anyway, let's go on to the next one. Prashant Singh Sisodia asks, facts. At facts, we won't see Tejas Mark II individual. Okay, he's answering an earlier question, so let's go to something else. Cop asks, your thoughts on budget 2022? I've shared a bit of this earlier. Well, you can see, it's all out there. 20 billion is what we have for capex, and that has to. Why 68%? I think 75% of procurement should be from indigenous sources now. It should be reserved. And there should be outright ban on a whole series of imports. You should have a proper, well-defined negative list where you ban entire categories of systems. Now, as far as the Army's revenue budget is concerned, I think this has been mentioned elsewhere, and I also saw it. They've actually done a remarkable job by keeping it under control, given that they have had to really increase their operational tempo along the line of actual control and all that. So that is there. So, and as far as our overall budget is concerned, I think it is sufficient, but only if you spend it better. There's no point in increasing this budget to just the defense budget, not the overall budget of the MOD, to 2%, 2.5% of GDP, and just have it wasted on imports. That will not increase India's security, as it hasn't all these years, depending on imports, as you can see. Okay, let's go to the next question. Mridul Bhavate asks, where does India stand? Where does India stand in nuclear reactor technology as compared to other countries like the US, UK, France, Russia, especially pressurized water reactor technology? This is a very good question. As you know, India is completely self-sufficient and a world leader in pressurized heavy water reactor technology. The 700 megawatt pressurized heavy water reactors that are being built are in no way inferior to China's latest CANDU series or the advanced CANDU reactor or anything. In fact, the IPWHR 700, the 700 megawatt pressurized heavy water reactor is a generation 3, at least a generation 3. In fact, it's a generation 3 plus reactor design. As far as pressurized water reactor technology is concerned, obviously we are behind the United States, UK, France, and Russia, and South Korea, and Japan, and China. Okay, we are behind them. We have a design called the Indian Pressurized Water Reactor 900, IPWR 900. That's going to be a 900 megawatt reactor. It has all the latest features. It's also a Gen 3 plus design. If we are able to build it successfully and demonstrate it, then I will say that we would have come at par with at least, with the AP 1000 kind of technology, because it would also be a Gen 3 plus design. But we are still about 5 to 7 years away. And in terms of nuclear reactor technology for PWRs for submarines, we are 1 or 2 generations behind. Now let's go down there. Raghav, I have already answered a question by him earlier, so I might have to skip this question in favor of some more. I'll circle back to them. Okay, Aditya, have I answered questions? Let me go to some of the other. Devmallo Das is asking. So Devmallo Das asks, when will the Astra Mark II maiden launch take place, or has it secretly been tested before? See, there's no point in asking this question, whether it has been secretly tested before or not. All I can say is that development come user trials should have been underway, but then that is up to DRDO and the government to reveal. Okay, now let's go to the next question. It's Hawkeye asks, on Twitter, HVT test pilot, yeah, I do know who that is, said there is no FCR in development for LCH, whereas Army ADB has specially asked for FCR for helos. Can you comment on this? The two may not be, this observation may not be mutually exclusive. You see, HAL had talked about a much larger attack helicopter based on the, with the IMRH design informing its being its base at one time, a much heavier attack helicopter. And it could be that the ADB's effort is dovetailed to that. Could be. This is speculation. Okay. Hirok Sengupta says, hi, Saurav, Hirok here. Hi, Hirok. Great to meet you. Hirok Sengupta is, by the way, my old school chum. And I am talking to him probably after a decade or so over here. Let's keep this offline. Let's go to the next question. Bhavesh Jaglan. How is India placed vis-a-vis China in Ladakh and Arunachal realistically? Good question. Okay, now let's take Ladakh. It is true that their mobilization differential is in their favor. They can move greater bodies of troops than we can quicker. All true. But we are not that badly placed anymore. As far as all the friction points are concerned, the only place where they still have somewhat of an advantage, is Depsang. Okay, but we are our troops are occupying a particular ridge line which prevents them from moving further, due west. And certain risky operations can be conducted to make them see, reason, even in the Depsang sector. There are other sectors where actually there are 1 or 2 sectors where we have the advantage, but those have not been used. That's probably because India does not want to escalate this problem. But if the matter persists forever, then anything may happen. You may even see a new Operation Snow Leopard. In my view, this is not the government's view. Let's be clear; it's my view only. Okay, so the thing is that in Galwan, where it all started, the Chinese are refusing to budge because that is their main lookout. That is where it all started. But I'll do another session talking about this because this will eat up too much time. As far as Arunachal is concerned, the main gates into India from the Tibetan plateau, which are in Tawang and in Walong, have been shut by the Indian army. It's not possible for the Chinese to come in again to Bomdila or something like that. That's not possible. But because the Chinese have built up Ningchi in such a major way, they can now carry out all kinds of shenanigans along parts of the various basins, various tributaries of the Brahmaputra that they could not earlier. So we'll have to build up over there. But all this talk about they can launch an occupation war, all that is complete nonsense. Either the people are misinformed or there is some malfeasance on their part. Okay, I'm sorry to say. The commentators who go around saying foolish things like this about what the Chinese can do in against India in Arunachal Pradesh, etc. Well, let's go to the next question. Okay, Shubhade asks, Dada, how's your health now? Better. I mentioned this earlier. I think I'm cured of TB, so thank you. Next question is, okay, there are questions by people I've already answered, so let me go to some others. Plasmodium vivax asks, are ADA and DRDO getting sufficient money to develop AMCA-related subsystems? Yes, AMCA, yes. I think they are getting sufficient money now. But Tejas Mark II, like I said, you need fresh allocations if you want to do the prototyping properly and not just build one prototype and to ensure that the program is not delayed, because you need 4 prototypes, all of which need to fly simultaneously, need to be in part of the testing program, added to the testing program as quickly as possible. And you need so that you can have early certification. Okay, next question. There's been a message that's retracted. Partpada, sir, why are ATAGs not ordered till now? Shameful. Please also tell update on Pralay induction. Okay, ATAGs will be ordered. Okay, there was a DSE clearance for 150 units. I think that will be renewed, and it will be ordered. And as far as Pralay, you saw back-to-back tests. That's a clear indication that the missile is well into, its production is stable. It's been productionized. So you're going to see more of that. I wrote that whole article on the integrated rocket force, delineating what the Pralay's role will be, its use and all that. And as it so happens, the first test of the Pralay happened within a month of that article coming out. Oh, well, not exactly a month, a little more maybe. So anyway, let's go. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Pralay is going to make a lot of difference because it's also going to be equipped with a front-end seeker. And thanks to the NGARM program, India can now equip a ballistic missile with a front-end seeker. Okay, and use it to target, say, armored formations, etc. Anyway, let's not go into details. Let's go into the next question. So, okay, let me answer this. Kalyan Pramanik asks, what is the status of Rustam 2? Any fixed-wing swarm drones made by Indian company in service? Any loitering munition made by Indian company in service? Not JV. Not JV, no. Loitering munition, what you can see is something that is in collaboration with the Israelis. You know about it, it's available. Fixed-wing swarm drones, you'll see fixed-wing swarm drones. I think you've even seen images of that during these various, Army Day releases and all that. So, you know what that is. What is the status of Rustam 2? Rustam 2 is out of the out of the stovepipe and into the light. So user trials are underway of the Rustam 2. You will see certification, I think, soon, and then production. Okay, next question. Namav asks, any update on Uttam Esa radar? It was supposed to complete trials by 2021 as per some media reports. Yeah, Uttam Esa radar is now pretty much almost done, almost ready. It's of course flown on the LSPs that Tejas LC LSPs that you know about. Of course, it also flew on that hack and all that, which was a BizJet conversion. I think I think even its interleaving modes must have been proven by now. But then again, this is my view only. What DRDO says is the official view. Okay, so now Uttam Esa is actually a success story for India. Next question. Fusion fame. Will IF ditch 114 mmRCA for TED-BF Air Force version? No, it won't. 114 mmRCA will happen. It is going to happen. It's not going to be ditched for any Orca or anything of that sort. Not going to happen. TED-BF first flight will not happen before 2029 anyway. So I don't think this is and the IAF is not going to go support an Orca while the Navy is just supporting a TED-BF. So these are not connected. The 114 mmRCA will happen. It's called the Mrfa program now, and it will happen. And in my view, the Rafale is the leading contender there. But then this is just my view. Again, I'll say one thing. Given that this is Indigenization Appreciation Hour, and I am die-hard and inveterately, an inveterate supporter of indigenization, I would say this, that if we do go with the 114 MRFA, which it seems we will, we better get our documents in order, as in we better negotiate a better kind of a license production deal than we have in the past. Okay, and let's not go into details of what that will be, but you can imagine. Now the next question is that, Ansh Singh asks, any update about improved variant of Kaveri with afterburner? Are there any plans to demonstrate on FTB? Yeah, there might be. And by FTB, not something like an Illusion 76 FTB, but an actual, but to power something which is twin engines. Maybe this could be one of the engines. That may be on the cards. Maybe. Okay, Bivash asks, is DRDO pitching a common 125mm unmanned turret for both light tank as well as FMBT program? Let's not go into this right now. But anyway, let's not go into this now. Okay, next question. We answered, Bornali has a whole bunch of questions. I'll take one of them. Okay, let's see which one is. DRDO is working on FUFA. Futuristic unmanned fighter aircraft. How true? If true, why so many projects? Not that many projects if you see it. But before any FUFA and all, what you're going to do, it's the Ghatak UCAV, what used to be called the Ghatak UCAV. Maybe FUFA could be a new nomenclature. That is only the Ghatak UCAV program, really. That is what you're looking at. So that, of course, will be powered by a core that has been derived from the core of the existing Kaveri turbofan. And I think that program is going along quite well. That is what you should be looking out for. There's a HAIL UAV under development by ADE. So that is also, I think that's not going to be like the Rustam 2. That's going to be certified much more quickly. And that's also jet powered. There's going to be an intermediate HAIL also, which is going to be propeller driven. Anyway, but these are all derivative programs. It's like the missile program. Once the base is done, 1,000 flowers can bloom. It's not as if you're doing something very new and therefore a huge amount of allocation is required, separate, segregated allocation. It's not like that. Okay, let's go to the next question. Nina Dholakia. For a few decades now, governments have tried the SEZ model to boost production in many sectors, which has had mixed results. In that context, how do you see defense industrial corridor's future? This is actually a very important question. See, why have these things not worked properly? Okay, of course, there are the larger macroeconomic issues. We ended up signing a FTA. We thought those guys will invest here or we'll be able to link up, and those things didn't materialize. The other thing is we didn't really have proper plug-and-play SEZs of the kind that you need today, proper industrial parks. Okay, where you not only is are the utilities already in place, whether electricity or water, or if required feedstock from some liquid energy source, etc., whatever, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff in place as well in terms of dealing with waste, management, pollution management, etc. We have to create such industrial parks quickly, as in within 6 months. And the defense industrial corridors will not only need these basics, they will require massive, hand-holding from DRDO itself on the production side. Because see, advanced manufacturing is a science in itself. And whether you like it or not, it is ultimately DRDO and the DPSUs in India which know about that over here, right? You may hoot with laughter at this comment, but that is the truth. So there are others. There are other big players like L&T and all who are obviously up to speed and they have contributed to major programs, but they have worked very closely with either DRDO, DAE or ISRO. So what we need is these defense industrial corridors will need industrial academic linkages from the IITs, which is good in a way because, they're not very far from some very important academic and engineering institutions. And on top of that, you will also need maybe labs created, you will need, and most importantly, you will need test facilities created, testing and certification facilities created to accompany these industrial corridors. So that is extremely important. Again, this is a very long subject. This can be discussed at length. Let's go into something else. Tejas Mark II has been answered. Okay, Lokesh Venkatas, why is Indian small arms industry, private and public, lagging compared to other weapon systems? This is the golden question, isn't it? Why can we make an ICBM but cannot yet make a damn 7.62 into 51 millimeter rifle that the army can use? Bastards, all of them, right? That's the general view. Pardon my language, but you see, I'll tell you one thing, okay? Infantry soldiers, because they fight day in and day out, and because of the nature of what they do, they could be a little finicky about what they want, especially when they become generals, okay? And it's the generals who decide what is procured ultimately. So, to give them the benefit of the doubt, they may still have some old views and those might need to be updated. It's only recently that they made the Army Design Bureau. The Army Design Bureau should work more closely with private industry in India and public industry. Let us not discount public industry just like that. All the major powers in the world have always had a section, a large part of their defense production in the public sector. Whether they have leased it out in arsenal mode, as is the way, the F-35 is produced even now, that is a separate question. What the PPP kind of, the public-private partnership, what the nature it will take is a different matter. But too many, what should I say, views are, a lot of people have these very lopsided and one-sided views about everything. Oh, public is bad, private is good, this is great, this is not good. These extreme views don't work in the real world. That's not how things are. So we'll leave that aside. Now, let's go into this stuff here. And I am very much part of the private sector. Okay, I'm not part of the public sector, but I know the role, I appreciate the role the public sector plays in India. Now, let's go to the next question. What is going on here? Okay. So, Indian small arms will catch up as far as Indian small arms are concerned. The 5.56 into 45 caliber arms that you see, I think all of those will be indigenous only. The MSME is already being produced and distributed. The MSMC, the JVPC that is. The ASME will also see frontline service. It will be either a supplement or a replacement from any of the MP9s, tier MP9s you see. And as far as the ARDOFB carbine will also see service, even with the army. So those are going to see service. See, a lot of second line troops and troops in other arms, they don't require a 7.62 millimeter sort of AK-203M or a NATO grade 716I. For them, 5.56 is good enough. Something which is light and compact. And the ARDOFB carbine and the JVPC and all will, JVPC is of course like a PDW, so it will fill that niche. These will fill niches. And the niches are actually quite big. So you will see more of this. And in the future, you will see, private players in India supplying very good sniper rifles and all to the special forces. So that is going to happen. Okay, next question. Okay, Rajkumar Rajshekharan asks, please share update about DRDO Kali program. Is it ready for full deployment? Can it be installed in warships and missiles? First of all, Kali is not a DRDO program. Okay, Kali is a DAE program, RCAT, kiloampere linear injector. It can generate what is called relativistic electron beams, etc., REBs. It can be engineered to be a weapon, but it hasn't been till now, at least that we know of. It could be maybe in the future when, these things are, when neutral particle beam technology matures, we'll see some successor to the Kali in the future. I would hope that it happens. Okay, next question. Gaurav Dhanda says, Saurav, do you have any updates on FMBT, its design, engine, timelines? Okay, all the various subsystems are coming together. So you're going to hear some important news on the 1500 HP engine, which will be part of what is the FMBT is now called NGMBT actually. It will be part of that. What will power the NGMBT? The transmission is also ready. Right, so many other elements, the electrically powered gun turret is also getting ready. So many of the components, many of the subsystems are getting ready. And you will see movement on it. You will see, I'll leave it to DRDO to disclose whatever they want to disclose. No point in giving more details. But it's moving. Okay, next question. So what are your views on India's nuclear strike capacity? Only 150 nuclear weapons. We don't know how many nuclear weapons we have really. That is not in the public domain. That is just an assessment by things like the Federation of American Scientists and others. So let me leave it at that. Yes, but as I have publicly advocated, we need to increase our both missile and fissile production given what China is doing. Let's go to the next question. Nirmal Mallik asks, what is the status of the CATS Warrior project? What can we see? When can we see its first flight? I think quite soon. Even in fact, HVT can answer this question better. I think it's moving forward. Okay. Is there a UBLS program in works for the Indian Navy? Yes, of course. You've seen it also. Anyway, Yuvraj Singh. Any guess why we are not seeing orders for LCA? You will see orders. You will see orders. You will see those orders. 179 was projected at one time. 114 for the Army, 65 for the Air Force. That has been pared down to 160 now. But I think it will go beyond 200 at one point. You will see orders. It will happen. In India, things, for the first time, I can say that after a long, arduous struggle in which we have all made sacrifices, things are finally moving. Finally, indigenization has become a thing. And you're seeing that. You'll see more and more of that. And you'll see a lot of people getting desperate also. A lot of so-called experts. They're going to writhe in pain. But not because of anything we are doing or anything, but simply because of their own mentality, Okay, next question. Jeffrey Royan. Thank you for the episode. What is happening to the Indian hypersonic weapons? They're under development. Both hypersonic glide vehicles and scramjet-powered hypersonic cruise missiles are under development. HSTDV will obviously inform the scramjet-powered cruise missile of the future, which will be demonstrated according to DRDO. Hypersonic glide vehicle is also under development according to DRDO. No details need be shared at this point in time. Then let's go to another question here. Okay, my God, there are a whole bunch of questions. What time is it? We already seem to have answered 100 questions and there are 1,000 more. Okay, let's go down here. Right. Apur Simas. What is the roadmap for Super Sukhoi? What potential do you see for this platform in the next 15-20 years? Significant, actually. I'll tell you something about this. The Sukhoi, Super Sukhoi, it's already underway in some ways. As you know, advanced self-protection jammers, etc., blah, blah, all that. DCMAWS, dual color missile approach warning system, developed indigenously. All that is going to go into Sukhoi 30 MKI. And with a scaled up version of what is now called the Uttam Mesa. And that is going to give considerably better, track while scan capability than the bars that you have here and further out. So Su-30 MKI is going to become a very potent machine indeed in the years ahead. And I see a bright future for it actually. And the so-called growlers key versions that you keep talking about, those are also going to be happening. In fact, they are already happening. Okay, Nidhu, we have another question for RP. We need Nirbhay LR LACM cruise missiles ASAP. Yes, we do. Why could we not? We've developed them. Nirbhay, there was even a report in a major newspaper which said it has already been deployed. See, the Nirbhay, which is powered with the Russian turbojet, is very much operational. I mean, I won't say, well, this is my view again, not the military's view. let their view be the main view on this. But I don't see any problems there. You see, there's a separate program called the Indigenous Technology Cruise Missile Program. That is simply to prove the Nirbhay with the Manik turbofan. And the test failures that you see are of that program, not of the baseline Nirbhay, which has been developed already, whose development is complete. So it's not like we have not been able to develop a subsonic jet-powered cruise missile. We've already developed it. And all the others you're going to see, the LR, LACM, all those you're going to see soon. That's not a problem. Then there's the submarine launch cruise missile, which is a DRDL project, which also has progressed well according to DRDO. There's no problem there. In fact, it's far cheaper than something. It's far cheaper to put the SLCM on the Scorpions than the naval Scalp, which is a frightfully expensive system. Do ask the Navy what they have paid for the Scalp. Let me not go into what they may or may not have paid. That's a different issue altogether. Okay, so let's go into this question now. Okay, we have a question for Aditya Patil. IMRH rollout, and do you think AMCA will complete its trials by 2030? Yes, AMCA will complete its trials by 2030 because there'll be 5 AMCAs flying. 5 AMCA, all are prototypes. Okay, the testing, we are also using things like digital engineering, all which the Americans are using for their 6th generation fighter and stuff like that. So you're going to see far more rapid prototyping, and it's not going to be like in the past. People keep talking about the past. You see, in the past, India just couldn't fund its programs properly. It didn't have enough people. It didn't have test facilities. It had a lot of things. Lot of things had to be built up from scratch, but India persisted. And now the threshold has been crossed in many areas. So it's not going to be like the past, oh, it took 30 years to make something. It's not going to be like that. Okay, next question. Kumar Mangalam Lambodia asks, what are the programs the AD is working on? FUFA is unmanned or a HALE? Are we making a new HALE and a new? I have answered this question already early in the program. You might want to watch it sometime else. Okay, we have Ame Moge asking, any update? This has been answered as well. Then we have a question from Aditya Sharma. Why do you think we still search for clearances and stuff like that when the enemies are at the gates? This is a question best asked of the government and not me. Next question is by Vivan Malhotra. What's the status of Defense Cyber Agency in terms of the mature technologies? Also, should India raise individual commands for all the services along with the agency? This is actually a pertinent question. DCA does work closely with DRDO and all, so they must be having stuff that is good. And as far as the DRDO has something called a Cyber Research Center that helps out, obviously, everybody. But right now, we do have more than one agency doing work. Okay, there are these discussions, I'm sure, that are underway at the NSCS and other places about what is to be done. So let us leave it to them. Let's see what they come up with. Okay, next question comes here. Yuvraj Singh has asked, why do you think our arms exports are still relatively low? Because we didn't try to export anything till now. You're going to see this change very quickly. You're already seeing it change because this $374.5 million deal with the Philippines Navy is going to be followed up with a deal with their army, which is going to be another $300 million, 374, 300, another $300 million. You're already getting up there. You'll get up to that $5 billion annual sales mark very quickly. It's always one or two or maybe 2 or 3 major systems that really get you up there in the exporter sweepstakes, and India has such systems now. Okay, FBACC asks, what do you think of the offset obligations by Boeing not being honored? What do you think? This is exactly the sort of thing I pointed out all these years. And the sort of thing that they were willing to give India for the Boeing C-17 offset was itself a joke. It's only through the intervention of DRDO that the matter was, rectified a little bit. It wasn't a great idea. The trisonic wind tunnel that was being offered to India had a lot of problems. All its parts had to be modernized, etc., etc. Nobody writes about all this because they are full. Because let's face it, except DDR, most of them are on junkets anyway. Anyway, next question. Lakshmisha KS. Hi, if not already asked. 1. Status of L&T DDR light tank. Navy has 90% indigenization for ammunition. What is it for Army and IAF? Is the Russian Make in India Kamov helicopter still on track? Are the Russian? I think the Kamov helicopters don't have a great future now that the I think the LUH is going to be back now. Navy has 90% ammunition. What is it for Army and IAF? Our Army also has indigenized many things. IAF, of course, you are going to see at least 20 different kinds of missiles and munitions, indigenous, which are going to be produced in bulk. So over time, that is going to become, they are going to have huge holdings of indigenous missiles and munitions as well. Air to air, air to surface, etc. And of course, their AD systems are also getting indigenized, so surface to air as well. Next question. And as far as, just general purpose bombs and stuff, all those are being indigenized for the IAF. There's no reliance on OFABs only of Russian origin and stuff like that, no. Okay, next question. Frankenstein CS. Any new platform showcased during Defense Expo like LATAM? Let's wait for Defense Expo. We'll see what is showcased there. Manmohan asks, does India have or need large phased array radars like China has built to track missiles over long ranges? And what about OTH radars? India has both. It has even been reported in the media, hasn't it? Okay, Shiva, Su-30 upgrade status, have already answered this. Please refer. It's already underway in some ways. It's going to be a major platform for the Air Force in the 2030s. Amit Kumar is lost in emotions. Welcome to the party. Singh, your views on reserving 25% budget for private sector. This is a very good question. Yes, 25% has been reserved, but I think it will have to be discharged via DRDO and their TDF, which in any way has been supporting private industry for many years, as I mentioned, L&T and all, and smaller players as well. And DRDO's testing and certification facilities are already being time shared with private players as well. There is no need to create an omnibus testing agency which will seize DRDO's facilities and bring it under its ambit, and then DRDO will have to run to it to get time on its own facilities. That will be a very foolish thing to do. That is not how things should be done. It should be left to DRDO. DRDO is capable of handling this matter. Next question is, and that is, by the way, required. And, the entire, the taxation mechanism should also be tweaked in a way that it, puts an emphasis on local R&D. And that Make 2, especially Make 2, has to be refined. Make 2, a lot of fly-by-night stuff may be attempted via Make 2. That has to be watched out for. Where, stuff which has been brought up from some third country may be passed off as something indigenous. That has to be really watched out for. And it has to be made clear that the IP has to be owned by an Indian entity. Okay. Shaboni Odhikari asks, what is the update on Ssns? Good question. The update is that I think we should see some forward movement on it. But I can say one thing. Ssns, Indian Ssns should be built using whatever we already have in terms of reactor technology, etc. Trying to attempt building Ssns with the next generation reactor, etc. and all that will only lead to delays. It could even lead to delays where you don't see an SSN in Indian waters before 2040. I don't think we can afford that anymore. We need at least 2 or 3 SSNs commissioned in the early 2030s itself. And for that, you have to basically bank on what you already have. Next question. Okay. We have Arjun Kapoor asking, hey, is anyone in this country working on vertical landing of rockets similar to SpaceX? Yes, ISRO is. ISRO has a VTVL program that details liquid fuel rocket, obviously. That has been talked about before also. Maybe another program can be done on all this, on ISRO programs only. Starship program will effectively make all of those programs obsolete? No, not really. Again, this is a way one-sided comment. It's never so simple. It doesn't happen so easily. Even the pager has not gone away. Anyway, next question. Fusion Famous. Should the government select the same new company for the Mrfa aircraft production which will produce AMCA? No, there's no such thing. But then, the criteria will be such. An AMCA in any case will have HAL participation and a private sector participation. And and obviously the company which gets, if it's a strategic partner in the private sector which gets to build MRFA, then obviously they will have a stronger hand to be part of the AMCA project. It stands to reason, really. So let us see how it goes. This is not up to us, really. It's up to how things pan out and obviously the government. Next question. The general studies. Any update on indigenous nuclear attack submarine? Already gave that. Atul Sharma. Any significant orders expected for the domestic industry? Will Rustam be ordered in large numbers? Yes, 76 Rustams will be ordered. And significant orders are coming in. You're going to see more of those. You're going to see LCH. You're going to see ATAGs. You will see MGS also. You'll see some other artillery, stuff coming in as well. Then there'll be significant orders for new multi-launch rocket systems from the Pinaka family, etc., etc. This decade you'll see orders. You'll see orders for all kinds of indigenous missiles and munitions also, which will be produced with the private sector as well, especially for the Air Force. Okay, Shekhar Singh. So what about DCMAWS on AMCA? It will be more advanced than what we are going to put on the Su-30 MKI. It's not like there will be no MAWS on the AMCA. Okay, next question. We have M. Anirudh asking, has the IAF mod ordered the digital RWR for Su-30 MKI? What are the hurdles that stops Su-30 MKI upgrade? There are no hurdles anymore. It's an expensive program. It will take time for certification. Everything happens when it happens, but things are being accelerated. Okay, next question. Sudarshan Dogre asks, why IA test indigenous equipment rigorously to reject that machine? When that mentality will change? I think it's changing already. IA had its own way of thinking. I think that mentality is changing now. Shravani Yodi and Aman Kashyap. How is India doing in cyberspace? How is funding happening for cyber and space agencies for services or separate budget? That need not be answered, whether it's happening from this budget or that budget. In cyberspace, much better than before. I think in terms of offensive capabilities, India is not behind anybody really. Cyber resilience, that has to be looked into, but then that is a question for everybody. Okay. Tejan Idhivi, glad to see you back and healthy. Thank you. Updates on possible additional order on Kalvari AIP integration timeline. AIP integration will start from 2024, as I had written earlier also, I think. And Kalvari additional order, I don't know. Although the hull fabrication unit of MDL has been lying oiled for quite some time now. Okay. We have Ravinderjeet Singh asking, what would entail in current capital outlay shift towards Navy from Army? Obviously, some of the things that were discussed a little earlier. Let's not go into details. Okay, Mridul Bhavate asks, is India working on 800 km, 1500 km variants of BrahMos? Yes. Next question is, okay. This M. Anirudh's question about fire control radar for FCR and LCH has already been answered earlier by me. Sharad Guru asks, what is the status of IAC-2? Parliamentary panel said it is a necessity. What tech, EMOLs and size will be? I don't think you will see EMOLs on it. Okay. And size, you might just see something a little larger than the current IAC-1. I think that is what the Navy will have to settle for. I think the optimal path for the Navy would be funding the SSN program and settling for a IAC-1 sort of equivalent with better features. That's my view. This view may not be shared by the aviation community in the Navy, by the way. They may still want that, but wanting is not equal to having. Okay. Do we need ITS rocket science asks? Do we need dedicated minesweepers? We needed them day before yesterday, actually. US Navy seems to retire all their minesweepers and giving that role to the LCS corvettes. Those were supposed to be switchblades, multitasking and all that. So they'll have a module for the LCS you are referring to will have a module for minesweeping. It could always have one because it was supposed to be a modular platform. But we need those MCMVs and we need them now. We needed them as of day before yesterday, but we need them, absolutely need them. And this is one thing that the government cannot drop the ball anymore on. They have to move forward on this. Next question that goes in, and of course, the numbers will be, you can do more now because you'll have AUVs, UUVs supplementing MCMVs. You may also have other boats which are designed for something else, which can be outfitted for MCMV duty also. Anyway, so now let's go to something something else, as in obviously for an underwater management role. But okay. Okay, there's another question here. Nash0503 asks, is it possible that the government may hedge its bets on jet engine development with France to enhance the current core and get the 900? These are all things, and to enhance the current core and get the 90 to 100 kN thrust, and UK to get the 110, 132 kN engine. Two separate collaborations. I don't think it's on the cards. I think it will be one foreign collaborator. Let's see which one it is. We're talking about jet engine development. Okay. We have a question now from OG the Baby. Any updates on Kalvari class submarines, BrahMos, VLSLs? These have been answered. Kalvari class, we can't have BrahMos, VLSLs, so let's not go there. It can only have a plug for an AIP. Now you want another plug for VLSLs? I don't think it's so simple. It's not plug and play. Okay, now let's go to something else. Ravindra asks, do you think we should go for 130 kN engine instead of 110 kN wet version? Let's see what it turns out to be, what the actual wet thrust rating, max wet thrust of the new engine turns out to be. Let's not comment on this prematurely. Vipul Parmar asks, which one should we go with? This is a question that is best answered by those who are dealing with this. The question basically was, which one should we go with for AMC engine, Rolls-Royce or Safran? Saffron actually, but whatever. So this is a question best answered by them. Okay, next question is, we have our first contributor. Somebody's actually deigned to contribute something to IAH. He says, M. Anirudh, while contributing something, says, would love to see IAH sessions at least once a month, sir. Can give you an update on MI26 overall. Right, all that is there. Please do follow M. Anirudh's example if you want to. And let's go on to something else now. Okay. Will Tata gain enough experience to make fighter jets after they produce C-295? Tata believes that it already has enough experience, but let's see. But they will gain some experience for sure. Plus, they have other programs running as well, which are going to be useful. Okay. So, next question that we have is from Sagar Bhavsar. Will Army induct ATAGs or not? It will, as I have said. Abhishek Datta asks, what do you call that? Abhishek Datta asks, what are your thoughts on the PLI for semiconductor fabrication? Yeah, I think this is one thing that we have to say is a good move. It's finally happened, and I see semifabs, at least two semifabs getting off the ground based on my discussions with some stakeholders. So I do see it getting off the ground. Master Chief, your thoughts on Pentagon's UAPs? This is a separate discussion topic. We'll do it some other time. But it's interesting actually. Why all this UAP stuff is suddenly in the news. Any update on transport fleet wide DIRCM adoption by IAF? It will happen by and by. But it's obviously something that must be on their minds. What do you think about the future of tank? Like I said, nothing ever goes away. Nothing. The nature of the tank and the role it will play will change. And the numbers that you'll need will also change. So you're going to have to see adjustments in that. Okay, now let me scroll back. I think we've exhausted this bunch of questions. I think I'll take a few more and then I'll call it a day. Okay, Raghav asks, what is the deal with the ballast weight of Tejas? No deal really. And too much has been written about it. 50 kg improvement here, 50 kg, this had to be moved. The exciter system for the radar had to be pushed over there. Then the power supply had to be moved. The cooling system had to be moved. Ergo, the ballast changed, etc. It's okay. Like I said, I'm not an aerodynamics engineer, so I won't comment on the fine points of it. But I think too much is made out of it anyway. Okay. Then let's go into some other questions here. Okay. Saurav Yadav asks, hypothetically speaking, if Pakistan gets a blueprint of any of our weapon system, will they be able to manufacture it? No, they won't be able to. Since DRDO transfers is designed to private players, do they have technical? Pakistan has some technical capabilities, but it cannot replicate one of our systems so easily. No. That is the beauty of having the IP of a system. Simple weapons have been replicated all over the world, but the weapons that are being developed and produced now, they can't be replicated so easily. There are a lot of layers involved over there, down to the fact that you cannot replicate the microstructure of many of the materials anywhere unless you know how to do it, know the exact process that it has entailed. Okay, and as far as private players in India already do design to print quite well, and build to print quite well, and they can do build to specifications also, many of them. So if DRDO works closely with them, especially from the prototyping stage under the development cum production partner setup, they'll be able to build our stuff. They'll do it well enough. And you can have public-private partnerships as well. So, what do you call that? Let's go to something else. We've answered some of this. We've had some new questions coming in. And, okay. Hitesh Abigai says, looking forward to contributing another article for DDR. Let's see when it happens. Okay. All right. We'll publish whatever it is that you send. Okay. Then we have Vinayak Modi saying, when BrahMos X missile roll out? By BrahMos X, do you mean the lightweight version? You'll see it soon. Okay. Indigenous engine for IMRH. Frankenstein CSRs. That's actually a good question. It can be done, especially with the HTSC 1200 showing results. You can have 2 of those, on the IMRH. Yeah, it can be done. Helicopter development is something we've done well in. Any new version of Arjun tank planned? Yes, Arjun Mark 1A, Arjun Mark 2 also. Structurally improved Arjun. So the work on that will progress. How many will be ordered, whether it will be ordered or not, we'll have to see. But as you know, 242 Arjuns will definitely see service, with 124 already in service. Hari Krishna Das asks, any update on AVAX India on A330 aircraft? No, we are first going to see the ones on the existing planes that have been leased from Air India. Those are the ones which are going to see the Netra Mark II basically. That is what is going to happen first. And then we are going to see this on A330. But a larger deal will have to be worked out for flight refueling aircraft and for AVAX and the MRO for A330s before we see movement towards that. But by the way, as far as the ground-based testing for the AVAX that would go on to A30, that has been underway for a few years now already. It has already been underway. Okay, Boat Tiger says, if this is not already been asked, will Vikas engine ever see the light of day? Vikas engine and then ISRO's Vikas engine, that has already seen light of the day. And has launched so many of our satellites into space. Which Vikas engine is this? Please do clarify. Okay. Astra Mark II, I've already dealt with it. Then what do you call that? Akhil Mehta asks, will India replace American engines in Tejas Mark 1 and Mark 2 with indigenous engine in near future 2030? Could happen in the 2030s actually, depending on the relationship, of course. But there are contingency plans in place to deal with the Katsa kind of, outlook. Okay, we are going on. We are going to the next one. And then we have more questions here. Okay, Moinak Bormon asks, why does the Indian Army like to use too many types of ammunition and assault rifles? Don't they face any problems in logistics? Obviously, they face problems in logistics. They may deny it, but it stands to reason that they do. Why do they use? Because they face diverse, they deal with diverse groups of, enemies. And who may be armored, who may be up armored, who may not be wearing any body armor at all, who may be, who may not go down very easily. So they have their own thought process about this matter. They even this is exactly why you had that whole MCIWS effort, but that of course didn't also go anywhere as far as the army was concerned. So you see that. See, as I see it, that when you have enemies who've done well in body armor, then you start moving to 7.62 into 51. When you deal with terrorists who don't go down easily, and you fight with them in rough terrain and battle-hardened areas, and you may have to move up and down a bit more, then you start looking at the standard AKM kind of setup. That sort of works better. When you look at second line forces and you look at troops who are part of artillery, etc., then you start thinking of 5.56 and all, because in any case you don't want them to be burdened carrying heavier ammunition, right? They are already lugging a lot of other stuff to and fro from trucks, etc., for setting up systems, blah blah, etc. You don't want them to be lugging a heavier kind of assault rifle, although even the 617 6716I is not heavy really. I mean, if you compare it with NATO 7.62 rifles of the past, it's lighter. So all that is underway, but obviously it's better to fight with one kind of ammunition than 10 kinds of ammunition as far as just your basic assault rifle is concerned. But life may not be so simple for all armies. Okay, next question. What do you call that? He's asking, Hitesh Adhikari is asking, don't you think GE F414 INS SIG will be a little underpowered, especially considering that Tejas Mark II is bigger and heavier? The envisioned feels... It's not only a question of, thrust to weight ratio. It's also a question of the aerodynamics, as you would understand. And exactly so, and MT, you're just taking, and you're looking at the thrust to weight ratio only for MTOW. And then you're thinking it's underpowered, but that's not, the plane is not always going to be taking off with MTOW anyway. Right. So anyway, let's go to the next one. Shekhar Singh asks, do we have any plan for making other types of aircrafts like transport bombers using domestic engines? Domestic engines, See, let us first get this 110 kN kind of low bypass turbofan engine going. Transport aircraft may need, basically high bypass turbofan engines, which will also have to be developed. You might say that, you can have something like the CFM 56, but we are behind in this area, obviously. So domestic engines, it'll be a while, but as far as the commencement of development of transport and civilian aircraft is concerned, it will happen. It'll happen within a few years. It'll commence. Strategic bomber, I think the same old, some sort of association with Russia will come into play. Once the budget, once India starts growing rapidly again, then you may see some strategic bombers released from that old source. It may happen, is my view. Okay, next let's go to something else. We are asking K5 SLBM status. Watch out for when it is launched. Let's not give more details on this. Gokul Ainath asks, would India have a 6.8 mm NGSW equivalent soon? Yes. That is actually being developed by ARD, according to them. Now, of course, whether the army thinks it's an equivalent or not is a different matter, okay? But it is being developed. Case telescoped ammunition is being developed. Green ammunition is being developed. 6.8 mm equipped rifles are being developed. Even 6.5 millimeter is being explored. Grendel round and all that. So whatever. Okay. Sudarshan Dongre asks, please give more details of TDBF. Will it stop import of Rafale or F-18? No, it won't stop import of MRBCF. Will go through. The Navy needs it. But it has stopped future imports. Earlier they planned 57. Now it's been pared down to 36. 36, either Rafales or FA-18s will be imported. That will happen. Because they need it, because the MiG-29Ks have their issues, as you know. So that is going to be, I see those happening. By the way, what I don't see is happening is people contributing to the efforts that are being made to support indigenization. Do feel free to support Indigenization Appreciation Hour as well. Okay, next question. What do you think? Bombers, tankers, AWACS, transport aircraft should have similar body structure? Nah, they can't have. AWACS, transport and tanker can, like A330 for instance. But bomber, of course, if you're talking about something like you turning transport aircraft into bombers using a pelletized load, those will be done. But then A330 is not the best for opening a ramp from behind, is it? Can be done, can have a ramp, you can have a version like that. In fact, there is a move to have a switchblade version which moves between tanker and AWACS configuration also. But not ideally. You will still see some heterogeneity of types over there in all the categories you mentioned. Okay, Sandeepas, Bharat Power Pack for tank is undergoing trials. Yes, it is undergoing trials. Okay. Aman Rutraya, so what's your view on DRDO light tank? Will that get inducted in service? I think it will. As the RFI mentioned, about 24 tons. I think it will be an indigenous solution only which will make it. Let's see what happens. Okay, let me scroll back again. Seen a bunch of other questions. And so on and so forth. Okay, we'll be wrapping up now because we started at 4:45. We have a really generous contribution from Jeffrey Royan, who says, DDR does amazing work. Hope you will grow from strength to strength. Thank you. We will. With your support, we will. The more you support, we will. The more you support, the more easy will it be for us to get our views across. The more easy it is for us to get our views across, the more easy it will be for indigenization. The more indigenization happens, the more our economy will grow, our technology will rise, more people will be employed, and most importantly, people who are, who want to contribute to India will get a chance to really contribute to India. That is the most important thing. Let's go with the other ones now. Okay. Right. General Studies asks, will our NAL RTA become a reality? What is the potential for that program? This is going to be taken up in earnest now, by the way, this NAL RTA. It will be a reality. I'm sure TASL will say that, we can have the C295 in a civilian role, and they'll make a case for it. If they make a good case for it, it'll probably get a bit of a market as well. But RTA and C295 are not at odds with each other, really. So NAL RTA will be backed. I see it being backed. I see it gathering steam. Like I said, once we are out of this, the sort of slump we had with the pandemic, and of course we had slumps before that also. Once India starts growing rapidly, you'll see all these programs starting to get serious funding, because a lot of preliminary work has been done on all of them. And as far as National Aerospace Laboratory is concerned, it is actually the key feeder laboratory. A lot of the things that we see happen over there, and they find their way onto DRDO programs, etc., and stuff like that, ADA programs. Okay. Nidul Bhavade asks, sir, any updates on Project P-18 class destroyer? This is something that is being pushed now, but you'll see the RFI for this only a few years later, and it's only around the latter part of this decade. The later part of this decade will you start seeing real movement on this. But 5 to 6 units of this will happen, the P-18. 5 to 6 units will happen. Okay, we have another contribution from Lakshmi Shah KS, and thank you for that. We acknowledge it. Right, let's go on with this now. Vikas Pias ATAX mounted version update. I gave the update already. Work on that is underway at ARD, etc. Okay, let me scroll back a little bit. Okay, Arun Sharma asks, any attempt by DRDO on fast missile boats? No. DRDO doesn't engage in this except to help out with stealth and stuff like that. NSTL, but the overall design will be done by DND only. DRDO's NSTL will be a feeder laboratory for DND's work on signature management. Okay, let's go to more questions. We have more questions going on now. We have Arun Sharma saying, we are okay. I've already answered that. Moinak Bormanas, will Triple S Defense get any contract for the indigenous products after AKM soft mode order? I think they will. I think they will. As I mentioned earlier, they will get contracts probably from the special forces. But then, of course, that's up to the special forces, not up to us. Right. Next question. Akhil Mehta, Tata Kestrel order placed or not? Tata says it's in service. Maybe limited series production may have happened of the Tata Kestrel, but a large order is yet to materialize. Master Chief asks, do we have operational megaton class thermonukes? Let me not answer this question, but let us say we have, as our former Prime Minister had said, India के पास big bum है. Let's leave it at that. ठीक है? And let's go to this. Late Prime Minister, actually. Okay. So let's now circle back and go to a few more questions over here. Okay. Ayush Singh has asked a few questions which I have answered. And then we have more questions going on there. Is there anything that... Okay, the MAV asks, when can flight trials of Astra Mark III SFDR be expected? When can it be expected is soon. This year, actually. Flight trials should be expected this year. But this is a technology development program. It's a technology demonstration program. So, wait and watch on this. Okay, we have members. By the way, please do join us as well. Become members. We have enabled membership now. Please do become members. We do need your support and we appreciate it. Right. So now we go into the next set of questions. Is here we have questions going on here. Let me scroll down a bit. Okay, Gaurav Dhandas, why don't we see ATGM integrated tested with LCH? You can't be sure about this. You will see it also. ATGM will be integrated with LCH and you will see it being deployed with LCH, with the LCH, an indigenous ATGM. That program, the entire Dhruvastra program, ATGM and the Helena program, they've all now matured. Okay, Nash 0503's question has been answered earlier. Let me go to some other questions. Darwidian Chim says, like the stream to increase its reach. Well, it's up to you guys. You have to spread the word if you want it to increase its reach. If you want a correct picture of what is happening, an unalloyed picture, then you increase the reach of the stream. We and I have done as much as I could. I have, I don't want to beat my own drum, but I have sacrificed a few things, including my health, trying to push indigenization. It's only now that we have got somewhere. It's been a long struggle that began in 2009-10 when I first started writing regularly about indigenization, meeting stakeholders, talking to people, gathering information, analyzing that information, presenting it, etc., etc., etc. Giving talks at the invitation of government entities, also having to sometimes encounter opposition from within those, places while I am delivering a lecture. I mentioned this also before. So all that is fine. All that is in the past. But yes, if you want our reach to increase, it's up to you. We have done what we could. Okay, so let's go to more questions. We have a question here. Gokulainath says, okay, this is a geopolitical question. India would abstain from a vote on Ukraine for Russia, but Russia would not for India when China brings up Kashmir on the UN. Are we that weak on Kashmir internationally? Kashmir, I think we are going to see a few changes there, okay? I think statehood will have to be restored in Kashmir. And we'll have to, again, we'll have to get into the business of healing that place. As it is, we need to get the army out of counter-insurgency. CRPF, we need to sensitize our troops. We need to reach out to the Kashmiri people again, the Awam, as we have done earlier also. And it'll happen. So it'll take a bit of time, but India is not going to be on a weak wicket on Kashmir within the next 3 to 5 years. But of course, the government will have to reorient itself a little bit. We are not on that weak a wicket. See, as far as the Russians are concerned, I'll tell you honestly, they believe a Russian diplomat, let's call him a diplomat, had once told me there is only one rule in geopolitics. You don't screw with Russia. Okay, this was the rule. But you don't screw with India either. Okay. And people will learn that by and by. But anyway, it will take time for people to learn, but not that much time also. Then let's go to something else. We come to this. Right. Any plan to develop turboprop engine by DRDO? Not by DRDO, by NAL. NAL will develop the turboprop engine. National Aerospace Laboratories will develop the turboprop engine. National Aerospace Laboratory. Okay. Next question is opinion about TAR rifle. You mean Trichy assault rifle or the Trika? Trichy assault rifle is actually finding favor with some of the Central Armed Police Forces. So it's better to ask them this question. Obviously, I'm not an infantry soldier, but I think it's all right from what I gather, from what I have heard from people. And this Trika has found favor even with the National Security Guard, which is quite remarkable actually. The Trika, basically the AKMU kind of mod AKMU derivative that you see. So yeah, it's doing all right for the domestically developed assault rifle. In fact, the interesting thing is you even saw the Ishapur R2 getting orders now. CRPF has ordered it. Some people are wondering why it has ordered it. That's another matter. But the fact that it's been ordered by at least the CRPF means that it will get produced. Okay. Prashant Singh Sisodia asks, S5 SSBN update, how many of them will be ordered? Let's not get into this, but of course the S5 SSBN program is progressing and stuff like that has come out onto social media also. There was that famous picture with the vice president and there was a model over there. Although whether the ultimate S5 design will look like that or not is a different question. It's best not got into, but it's progressing. And in my view, we need at least, 8 Ssns. So that we have 2 or 3. We can circle through 2 or 3 at all times. This is my view. Let's see what happens. Okay. Do you have more questions over here? Bornali Chatterjee says, silly question, J20 versus F-35 versus AMCA. Obviously, F-35 is the leader over here right now. But AMCA, if we are able to do a good job on it and get the kind of engine we need, it will be highly competitive. J20, the Chinese are continuously improving the J20. But there are still some residual questions about how stealthy it is in the frontal aspect, not to mention the rear aspect, etc. Okay, there are other, and despite the progress the Chinese may have made on the WS-15 family, the J-20 still doesn't have anywhere near the kind of engine that a 5th generation fighter requires. Okay, there are issues over there. So in fact, we would have watched closely what kind of deployment experience the Chinese had from, from Hotan when they deployed J-20s over there. Okay, we have a question here. Partha says, speak on clause talk you gave. It wasn't a clause talk, it was a USI talk. Okay, I made a presentation on a multi-domain warfare architecture for India. A2AD architecture for India, centered around the integrated rocket force and the Air Defense Command, proposed Air Defense Command. I'll do a whole session where I'll go through something of that sort. Okay, there will be a separate session dedicated to that where questions only related to that will be answered. Okay, now we have other questions over here. We have stuff like that going on. And okay, Shiva Shankar asks, hypersonic BrahMos 2, any significant update? No significant update. The focus is now on the increasing the range of the baseline BrahMos and the BrahMos M and stuff like that. But once our HSTDV program shows all that it has to show, you will suddenly find that the BrahMos 2 program will also take off. Okay, scrolling down. Master Chief asks, what do you know about RAW Special Group? By the way, I wrote the Wikipedia page on them. Then why do you ask? Let's not go into details of the special group. They are special. And they are a very small unit who are used for very specific operations. Okay. They are the closest we have to Delta. So it's, in a way, it's fine. But of course, Delta is larger or whatever and this, that. It's not going to what all the special group does. And then, discussions about 22 SG are best kept offline. Okay. We have a question from Shravan Khaling. How many years do you think India will take to finally produce an aircraft engine that satisfies the requirements of the IF? The DRDO and HAL and all are looking at 7 years for it to fly and another few years for certification maybe. Maybe even faster than that because they are being told to hurry up. Okay. Parikshit R asks, US did a trial of cruise missile container launch from transport aircraft. Do we have such a program to launch BrahMos or Mrfa from That's not going to which specific thing, but I'm sure something like this pelletized cargo system like this is being for deployment of airborne weapons is being explored in India also. Let's not go into details. The DRDO reveal details by and by. Vedang, are we working on an integrated air defense system? Yes, we are. S-400, S-500 are by themselves not integrated air defense systems. What you need is an integrated air and missile defense system, which we are working on, and equivalents of this S-400. Under what used to be called VLR-SAM is now called XR-SAM. There are other names for it also. You'll see movement on this. You'll see movement on something called LR-SAM also probably. Something, not what Navy's LR-SAM has been now rebadged as MR-SAM. So I think that is now a separate LR-SAM program. Let's leave it to DRDO with their nomenclature and what they reveal. Okay, now let's go with this. Ashish asks, is it true that Army inducting 5 BrahMos regiment DOI reported? Yes, it is true, I think. In fact, more regiments were planned, if I remember. It had been reported also. Okay, Shaboni Adhikari asks, status of GAN radar under development. And thanks to the work done at GETET and all, it will see light of day. And GAN fabs will be set up also under this new PLI for semiconductors. At least one will be set up. So I think we'll have a trusted foundry also for supplying, HEMETs that we need for subsequent, for building into a proper MMIC and all that. Anyway. Okay, then Gabar RF, does quality of OFB products vary from factory to factory? Unfortunately, yes. It can vary from product to product also. Okay, but a lot of investment has been made in quality control. A lot of the complaints that you keep seeing are old complaints, many of which have been fixed also. It is very easy to take a dump on OFB and AWL. They have had their huge problems before, I don't deny it. But a lot of investment was made and a lot of upgrades were done on the way to corporatization. So it's not exactly the same as before. INS Vikrant potential Catobar conversion? No, I don't see it really. INS Vishal future? I would think it will be something that will be just an enlarged INS Vikrant. Let's see what the Navy and the government work out. Let's go with something else now. We have more questions. Okay, folks, lots of questions and playbacks and some support, hopefully more. Please do oblige. Let's move on to something else. Let's answer some more questions, after which we are going to wrap up this session because it's already 5 o'clock. What is the range of Akash NG? 50 kilometers, maybe more a little bit. It's been also, I think, publicly revealed by DRDO. Okay, Gabbar RF, no, this question has been answered. Rishabh Kumar, any update on 150 kilometer air defense system by DRDO? Is it same as MR, SAM, etc.? Can't obviously be exactly the same. Of course, you can have a Barak 8 ER which manages 120 kilometers. You'll see this. You'll see more stuff on this. Exactly this kind of stuff. Okay, Gokulaina, do we have an indigenous program similar to EOTS in F-35? Yes, something similar was there according to the ADA people for AMCA. Isn't it different from the IRST tech that the... It is different. Not exactly the same, obviously. Some of the things are the same, but not... It's not... In fact, it's not exact... I won't call it exactly like either EOTS or an old-fashioned IRST. It's... it's... Anyway, when it comes out, you'll see. Okay, Amebane. Dassault Rafale compatibility with INS Vikrant. I think it is compatible. Maybe even the F-18 is compatible, which is why both of them are... So this whole canard about whether the lifts were too small or not, moot. That's a moot thing. Okay, Part asks, sir, will Russia invade Ukraine and does Russia want US rapprochement to lean Russia away from China? Again, this is a geopolitics question. I am not a complete expert on, Russia and Ukraine or Russia's near abroad. I do know a bit about it. I do know a bit about how the Russians think also, because I have interacted with them for many years, as I have with the Americans and the British also. But I'll tell you this much: as far as I know, the Russians are already in Ukraine, and I don't only mean Donbass and Crimea. Their VDV has been operating in Ukraine, and their other Spetsnaz has been operating in Ukraine for quite some time now. Okay, so Kharkiv will be a likely target if they do go in a major way. And the fact that they are moving their fleet, they're moving more naval units into the Mediterranean, means that they might make a play for Transnistria also, to create a corridor from Ukraine's Mediterranean coast to Transnistria. Right, the breakaway part of Moldova where people speak Russian and are aligned with Russia. So you may see that. You may see something like that. I think there will be. I don't think... You see, because even blood banks are being moved close to the frontier by the Russians. Why would they do that? One of the greatest indicators of forthcoming action is stuff like this. Now, are you going to suggest that, they're moving blood banks only to put more pressure on Ukraine and America? Maybe, but no, I don't think so. I think we are going to see something happening in Ukraine. I think something is already happening with the Spetsnaz and VDV units. Okay, next question is Frankenstein CS. Should Indian Navy increase its fleet with more small-sized next-gen missile ports? Probably will. All these, all the old Tarantul class, they've begun to retire. They've been retiring as well, and you will see a replacement. You are in any case going to see next generation missile vessels and the next generation corvette. 7 new next generation corvettes and the new generation missile vessel, which is on the 6. So you're going to see those anyway, stealthy boats carrying indigenously developed missiles. You will see that. And you will see next gen missile boats also. Something similar to what the Russians have, like the Karakut and stuff like that. I fully see something like that, and you may have LRL ACMs deployed on them. This is not at all a fancy. This could very well happen. Okay, what else is there? Parikshit R asks, can Indian AD withstand a mass first strike? First attack from PLA rocket force or cruise missiles or airfields? It's not so simple. You see, India has many dispersal techniques in place, the IAF. So the PLARF will not know when exactly to launch a missile barrage to get maximum effect. That doubt will always be there in their minds. They might just attack an airfield which is empty. And we have a lot of rehabilitation capabilities in place, from aluminium sheets to fast drying concrete and all that, etc. So those airfields will not be out of action for too long as well. Yes, but they can definitely hit us very badly with their PLARF, which is why we need a symmetric counter. And that is now going to be put in place. The Pralay test was exactly in aid of that. Okay, so that is there. Maybe I'll write an article analyzing exactly how many missiles the PLARF will need to knock out how many of our airfields for what length of time, etc. But as a preliminary point, I can say that as far as only airfields are concerned, there are many dispersal techniques have been exercised and all, which can blunt such a move by the Chinese. Okay, next question. Siddharth Bhomik asks, are we planning to make our own LHD like .co class, bigger than the .co class, but in collaboration with a foreign player, obviously. This is the LHD program, which is called an LPD program at some point. So they are going to be LHDs only. If you see the specifications, it's for an LHD, not really an LPD. So you are going to see 4 units of LHDs built. Again, this depends on budgetary movement. Already some movement has happened. As you know, the government becomes more confident about India's economic future, they'll start financing all this. Okay, next question. Gabbar RF, why are Pekora batteries still used if other missiles are available? Because there are lots of gaps to fill, although those are being filled very rapidly with new systems. And the spoon rest, P-18 spoon rest and all, which are used with this, those are very effective for detecting low RCS targets of a particular band, you can imagine. So they can be used as queuing systems also. They are not useless. They might be obsolescent or obsolete in some way, but they are not useless at all. Okay, now we are having the same set of questions coming back again. So I think I've answered all of this. You might want to see this session later. If there are no further questions, then I'll be concluding this session of Indigenization Appreciation Hour. Right, I thank you all for joining, and for some of you for contributing. And I hope that you become members of DDR, and we can keep, disseminating the correct perspective on indigenous issues week after week. Thanks a lot for joining in. Good evening.